there's a lot of tools out there that'll integrate with general ledger systems and give you the data directly in Excel, but they're giving it to you not at the transaction level. They're giving it to you at the aggregated level with no ability to tie that back to, again, the atomic unit. From a general ledger perspective, the atomic unit is not an aggregated cross-section. The atomic unit is the transactions that built that, right? Why did AR grow month over month? My DSOs are up. Why? I can't look at a balance sheet and tell you why your DSOs are up. I've got to look at the invoices and the payments and which customers. And if I have to go run 5 reports out of my general ledger system to answer a question that was generated as a result of efficiently producing reports through aggregated totals, that I then have to go into my general ledger system again for every question and get to transaction level detail 5 different ways in order to answer one question, I'm just not operating at the level of efficiency I could. Yeah, I mean, this is going to be very company specific. I would say that whatever the data sources at your organization that are critical to the operations of the organization, a CRM, a general ledger system, an HRIS system, your own internal, either software, platform, whatever, your usage statistics, those sorts of operational things. You need to have pipes built such that they are coming into your framework, and your meaning finance, right? And the data model for consuming those in a holistic way, built out or be on a path to building that out, right? Because let's say I'm at an organization, and sometimes that's a data warehouse layer. I'm going to take a step back for a second. Sometimes that's a data warehouse layer. Sometimes that's an FP&A tool. Sometimes that's Excel. Sometimes it's a visualization tool. These are all tools. I think about it like a carpenter, right? As a carpenter, you don't go to a job with one tool. You go to a job with a toolbox. You have the tools that you use often. I think of Excel like a hammer for a carpenter, right? It's like, I'm going to use it for a lot of different things. It's a very flexible tool. I'm always going to have it with me. But if I'm using the hammer to try to get a screw into a piece of wood, I'm probably not doing the right, I'm probably not working with my time as efficiently as I could, right? And
you might get the job done, but not correctly.
You might, right? You hit it hard enough, it's going to go, but you're going to have to show that to the person you're doing it for. And we've all seen those spreadsheets where it's like, this may not have been the right tool, right? So the tool specifically, there's a lot of different ways to approach that. I think Excel is fantastic. I use Excel every day. I'm a finance person. Finance people love Excel, but it's not the right tool for every job. It can work for a lot of things, okay? So what's most important is that the data that your organization uses to facilitate its operations is available to you to help with performance assessment, to help contextualize the financial performance of the organization with the operational execution, right? And that requires some thinking in advance about those questions that are going to come. And I always ask people, I say, put yourself in the shoes of make yourself the CEO, right? When you're doing this analysis, you're going to send it out. Put yourself in that shoe to the best you can. And what questions would you ask, right? And if you have questions, it's plausible that that person's going to have questions, and then some, right? So at least be able to answer those questions so that if the obvious questions come back, you're ready, or even better, send them out with it. Say, here's what happened. Here's why it happened. Here's what we noticed as a result of, these other operating metrics. And here's how this kind of ties together. Again, if you're spending all your time just getting the information together, you're not going to, even if you can do that analysis, you're not going to have the time to spend on it. So you've got to invest in that ahead of time so that you have the ability to leverage, you have the ability to answer your questions when you have them with a minimal amount of work, and not have to, so much time in FP&A and finance is spent just getting data and cleansing it and manipulating it to be able to, spend a half hour actually answering the question, right? If that work is done, if you've got the data architecture and the pipes from those systems already coming into your framework, whether it's a data warehouse, again, if you're good in SQL, or an FP&A tool or a visualization tool, or all of those, depending on your architecture, that work has to be done in advance, because what's going to end up happening is you send out your revenue, your income statement, and you look at it, and the CEO, that the CEO is expecting that revenues going to grow by 20%, because that's what was budgeted, and sales is saying, hey, bookings is up, we're doing well. And you look at the results and revenues growing by 10%, and you send that out. And if you don't have that mindset to say, well, I expected revenue to be at 20%, so, the sales team is telling me revenues, bookings are growing and we're doing well. Why is revenue only growing at 10%? Well, in order to answer that question in a SaaS environment, you better have understanding of bookings to revenue recognition across time, and how bookings convert to revenue, and how the current period revenue is being impacted by prior bookings and the recognition of those, and how your particular software, how implementation versus go live works and all that. And if you send out revenue growth of 10% against an expectation in the organization that it's going to be higher than that, and you don't provide that context in advance, then you haven't done the pre-work on your information architecture and your understanding of the business, and the ability to automate most of the core reporting and that sort of thing, so you can focus more of your time on analyzing the results. And you're going to be on your heels, because then the CEO is going to come back and say, why is this 10% and not 20%? I'm getting all this other information. And you're going to say, I'll get back to you in 2 or 3 days, right? Because I got to go to the CRM, I got to pull that, I got to build my cohort models, I got to look at, how I got to map my customers in Salesforce to my customers in NetSuite, so I can look at revenue in NetSuite against bookings in Salesforce. I got this whole analysis I got to do, so I can answer that one question. What if every executive sends you that question, right? You're going to now spend the next couple of weeks just trying to respond to the questions that, in reality, if you spend the time on the tools and the processes and the capabilities to unlock that data for you, you can spend the time analyzing the information and not just getting it out, and anticipate those questions, send them out with the analysis and the performance, that you're with your deliverable, whatever it is. And you will help create a lot more value for the organization.